Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Can Relate. I'm Naya.
I'm Twilla.
I'm Sky.
We are usually 5 siblings, this time 3. We're 10 years apart and we're related, we're relatable. And today we're going to discuss having children or not having children. It's quite the topic, especially I feel like women and people our age in general, people kind of expect us to have kids by this time, but also things are changing. We're millennials, ranging in age. And, it's actually becoming more acceptable and more common for people to have children later or not at all. So we're going to talk about that. We're excited, ladies?
Yeah, I think this is good. Girl talk. No guys. I'm
here. Good thing. We get down to the nitty gritty. No, but so it's like a thing. Actually, CNBC has been doing this article or kind of this focus group on older millennials. And I think we've already seen it for ourselves, but it's just kind of proof that people have been waiting to have kids and or not having kids at all. And it's actually studies show that people tend to not have kids or wait to have kids in moments of economic instability. So first we had the Great Recession, right, in 2008, and then we had the pandemic, and it really has affected people in choosing to have kids. I think on top of that, like student loans, the cost of living, I know those are things that affect me to feel like I can even do other things like, getting a home and then moving forward in that. And I feel like if I don't even have certain steps ahead of me, I'm not in any place to have a kid anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been stuck in a economic unstable time for my whole life. Because
it's not just you though. That's what Naya's saying. Like it's all millennials are feeling that way. And you can even go back to like 2007, the writer strike in LA. So for me, I would say that living in LA, a place that the cost of living is a lot higher than the rest of the national average, and having a job position that is not always stable, but I can work a lot. I do entertainment, so I can work, but the structure is not always stable, and the idea isn't always I want to have a kid, this sounds fun. Then you start thinking about real economic impact, right? So you think about the first year of that child's life, you think about medical care and all those things that you need to make sure that you have consistently. You think about where am I going to live, because a lot of times it's hard to afford having your own place, even in LA. And if you're living by yourself or having a kid or a partner or whatever, that is a real cost. And then you go to education. So where is my kid going to school? Unfortunately, public schools aren't created equal in our country, and it's not always the best public school option. So it's like, well, I would like to try magnet or charter or private, but private school educations are just as expensive as college education. So in some instances, you're paying $50,000 for a kid's education. And then if you have more than one kid, like that price increases. So it's like lots of thoughts like that. And I think a lot of people our age, like you said, Naya, with the student loan crisis and all these different debts that we have incurred and not being able to necessarily get that strong footing that generations ahead of us have been able to get, like causes you think all these things through, and it's like, is it even necessary? Is it worth it?
I feel like, did people even think like that at all at some point? Because even though people, maybe it was easier to get houses or it wasn't as expensive, but the wages were probably lower then. So I just feel like, I don't know if something just clicked or something, because I don't think that seemed to had prevented a lot of people. I'm not in the best place financially. Let me hold off on this. It's kind of it's about that time. I'm 22 or something. Let's just have a baby, get it out of the way or something.
Yeah. Scully, you're right. I had this conversation or talked about this with mom recently. And when I was telling her all the factors, because I basically had to break it down to her and be like, Mom, don't know if I'm going to give you grandkids. And, it took a while. I actually talked to her about this a couple of times before she kind of clicked. She was like, wait, you don't want no kids now? But anyway, when I told her why and the thinking around it, and she was like, I never even thought about all of these things. I just had kids. And it worked out for her because you're right. Like, mom and dad weren't wealthy or anything when they started having kids. It was just what you did. And it's like, I don't know. I guess I feel like for the most part, it's good that we're thinking about all these factors. I think sometimes people have kids and they probably shouldn't have had kids, or they should have thought about it. Thank goodness it worked for our parents. But yeah, maybe on the other hand, it might be a little like we restrict ourselves and feel like we have to be so ready. But also, I think it's good that we're thinking about things.
That's where I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I feel like because I don't think a lot of people thought of that previously, and it's worked out, especially like I think having kids can be expensive, but I feel like it could also probably motivate you to go to that next level if you're like, oh, I'm in this position, but now I have kids, I have someone to work for. It's not just me anymore. And I don't know. And also, like, you can do a lot of fun free things, like go to the park and just make games. Kids think everything's fun. So I don't know.
I think it also, so I do agree with that statement. I do think that because in society at that time, it was just expected that you would just have kids, and we weren't as grown and logical as we are now, thinking about all the costs and the what will impact it. And think about, we're not that far, like that many generations away, where like a one income situation could still cover the cost of living for a family. Like a lot of times a man worked, the wife stayed at home and was able to provide, or the wife was able to take on a small part-time job. And it wasn't necessarily required for there to be two income households. A lot of that started changing in recent years, like in the 70s and the 80s. And we could even talk about economic injustices where women weren't allowed to have bank accounts or without a man, and have land or buy homes and that sort of thing. So a lot of things are shifting. So I definitely think that that kind of plays into it, and we can probably absolutely be in our own heads, holding ourselves back. But I also think that just living through these these moments of economic instability probably like set us back a little bit and was like, let's really think about this, like, And so I do think, like, get out your own head. Do you or do you not want a kid? But then if you go and you're working, because we all work, and you work long hours, a lot of times I have the thought of, man, I would get off work and I would have to then take care of a kid. Like, I would have to cook dinner. I don't even cook dinner for myself. I would then have to go home, cook dinner, do homework, spend time with, get showered, and get ready for the next day. And I think a lot of times people think of that too. I saw a meme the other day that was just like, I don't know how parents do it, like with kids, because I would walk in the house and just push the thing out the way, like, move, I'm tired.
And I think that's the other thing. Like, I feel like because our parents are so awesome, I know what I want it to look like. And I'm like you said, if I've worked all day at school with other people's kids and I have to come back to mine, will I have the patience left for mine? And how will I feel? I'll feel so drained and tired, and I wouldn't be able to lesson plan or whatever. Like, there's so many factors when it comes to that. But I also think maybe it's not such a big decision for some people because maybe they kind of raise themselves in a way. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, but our parents are super, super involved. So I guess that's why I'm like, I'd have to do that. So that is the very full-time job. I don't think I could have both. And I want to enjoy my kids. I don't want to feel like I got to make this happen. Like, if that's what like some people, I think that's fine. That's works for them. But I know it wouldn't work for me. I want to have like a surplus and be like, let's go on vacation. Let's do this. Like, it's not like a problem. Money isn't really an issue.
Yeah. I feel like we, as a generation 2, and also like the Gen Z coming behind us, we want more too. It's like we have more options. It's almost like we're like, wait, how will having kids affect my mental well-being? Will I be able to have an abundance, an overflow to give? Like, I'm even like, okay, I know I'm not old yet, but according to the timeline of dating and when I'll finally meet someone, and then I want to have a couple years of marriage before I have kids and all of that. And then I know that there's like more difficulty with birth around with the older you get. So it's like, do I want to do that to my body, or do I want to be Tracy Ellis Ross for the rest of my life? Like, what do I want? You know, I feel
Exactly.
like we
Can
have
I,
more.
when I travel, is that going to interfere with my
Yeah,
schedule? Can I just drop them off to grandma's for 3
yeah.
weeks? Like,
You
We
can.
we have we see more. Yeah, mom would love it. They could live with mom, but yeah, I feel like we have more opportunities and we see more people doing things. I would even say people and women of color, we see more options. So we're like, do I want this? Will having kids affect that? And also not just in a selfish way, a little bit selfish in a healthy way, right? But also like what type of kids will I be raising up, you know?
I think now you touched on something really good. And before I hop to that, just like it is being an older millennial, whatever the F that means. I do think that, you know, I've seen friends my age and older go on, meet their person later on in life, have their children and be okay, you know, like physically and all those things. So we do hear a lot of statistics. There's a lot of statistics. There's a lot of numbers. I think for the three of us, we could take that and like rationalize and be like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense. And it can play into our anxieties and fears in general. So like, I think first I do want to address that it can happen and it happens and people are happy when it does happen. And they've had like their 20s and early 30s to travel the world and to enjoy and to build up financially and be in positions where they want to be, and then still able to enjoy each other. I know there's those memes kind of floating around, like where people whose kids are in high school and they'll might be enjoying or sipping a drink. Me in my early 40s with my kids in college, while the rest of my friends in my age chasing around 5-year-olds. And it's just like, it depends. It's like a preference. Do you want to do it now while you're young and got a lot of energy? Or do you want to do it later when you're established and, you know, like established financially and can provide more opportunities for your kids, you know, that sort of thing. So I don't think there's a wrong choice on any spectrum that you go on. It's both possible. Yes. And then going back to the part where you're talking about like the toll that having a kid can have on your body physically at an older age, I think the toll that having kids can have on your body at any age is crazy, because motherhood is ultimate queendom for me. Like the fact that your body goes through what the changes and adapts and all the things that it does is beautiful, but it does take a toll. And I do think it's important that you understand what your body is physically undergoing when you're about to have a kid and to give life. And I think a statistic that oftentimes intimidates me is when it talks about women of color and the mortality rate when it comes to pregnancy. That's a statistic that scares me, but I think with that, understanding that statistic, then you understand how to build a holistic childcare team. How are we going to get through this pregnancy together? What are my options? How do I prepare? That's also a beauty in knowing more that we know. I think our generation has more information. I think before it was just like, yes, you have a baby, it's going to hurt a little bit, but then you're going to pop it out and then you're going to take it home and you're going to breastfeed it. And only good moms do that. Like, you know, like it just, I think the information that we have can work for us or against us as far as our anxieties and so forth.
Yeah, a lot of my reasons, some of them aren't selfish, but the one that keeps coming up is like, okay, because I'm like waiting for this financial stability, right? But if I get that, when I get that financial stability, I want to be going on vacations and stuff, child free first. Like, then it's kind of like, because you know how you said, like, once you're married, you want to have those first few years to yourself. And it's only been like, what is this, year 2? So it's still early on. And then to find that financial like success that I could just be on a yacht almost every day, I don't want to do that with a child. Not yet. Maybe after a few years, but.
Do you think, because with that financial stability, I guess first, do you have your own idea of what that financial stability looks like, right?
Basically, it's like retirement at 35.
Oh, okay. Okay.
34.
It's
So
coming.
yes, I think that also kind of looks like, because you've done a lot of vacations too, like you've not had a boring, let me just stay put in one place. You want more. I understand that.
I have to get all the continents, and then once I feel like I've traveled enough, then I wouldn't mind traveling with a child.
And I also think it depends on your partner as well. Like you said, there are times where it's like, hey, mommy's got to go on vacation. So you're going with grandma or auntie or uncle or whatever. That's the beauty in having a big family. But it's also that idea of like, I have friends whose babies travel internationally, had a passport straight out the womb, and strapping baby to the back, and this kid having a luxurious life. So it depends on your village, which reminds me of something I was going to speak to earlier, is also, I think, a thing that we have to consider is people back in the day who had kids early, or people who have kids early, oftentimes have a local village. They have their moms in the same city, their sisters and brothers close by, so that they do have somebody that, like, my mom is watching the kids today and things like that. And that's something that we don't necessarily have. I think, especially this generation where we live all over, we can live far away from home. So it is harder to think about, I'm doing this all by myself, whereas back in the day, it was a village. For me, as a kid, I remember auntie doing my hair, and I remember, going and hanging out with Momon during the day at times. And I'm sure for me, it was just fun, but I'm sure for mom and dad, it was like, I got to get errands done. This is a reprieve. Mom was like, I don't have time to do all these, people's hair. And I remember when auntie moved back to Shelby, mom having to do like my hair and your hair on then her hair, like, so it was just like it was just hair day, and I could imagine that being more
why
exhausting.
my babies might have locks. But what was I gonna say? Oh, Nana was like kind of saying the same thing about like that village sort of situation. Because I think, even no matter how your class was, I'm not 100% sure, but it's not like she was like super rich. She had like a house boy and a house girl. So like she was like, we need somebody like that here. Like, she wants somebody to live with us, like an old auntie or something like that, to just stay with us and just have a kid, speak the dialect, we'll be at the pool, but they're right there, but they're just not bothering us. We can see. But,
I call that a nanny, and I want one of those too.
Oh, I guess that's a nanny. In Chinese, they call them ai, and that's auntie, so.
Ai, yes. I think there's an option, and sometimes more wealth affords that. Like, I know people in my industry, my age or older, with kids, and they rely on like their nannies to help during the day with the kids. Like, they still create time, to be with their kids. It's just working harder and getting to a certain waiting does afford you sometimes certain luxuries that you wouldn't always get.
But I'm so like overprotective. I don't want them to just be with the nanny without me. Like, I would want, like, okay, we're gonna go to the store, and the nanny's in the back seat with the kid. I'm driving, and then we're at the store, and the kid's running off. She's chasing.
That's funny. That's interesting though, because I feel like people judge sometimes people that are richer, right, and having nannies and even like housekeepers and stuff. But I guess they are just building their village. And the only difference, I mean, they're kind of doing it more traditionally, because a lot of other cultures still do it. And then like, we just kind of have a decentralized family unit in America. So yeah, I guess that would make a difference.
Yeah, I think it helps, like, because at the end of the day, in our society, as hard as we work, it's almost impossible to, and I don't know if any of us plan on giving up careers or work when we have kids. Like, I know like Naya and I aren't there to talk about what our spousal support, if there's going to be spousal support when we have kids, what that looks like. But, like, are you willing to give up? your career. A lot of times we talk about women leaning in, but leaning in a country that doesn't give like paid maternity leave or even paternity leave is a little bit harder. You really have to like consider real things when it comes to having a kid financially, and what is your goal as a career. And a lot of times we don't talk about how women financially peak in their career at like 45, making 60 something thousand dollars a year, just because of how society is. And at some point that woman might have had to stop her career to raise kids, like there's really different factors that we have to consider long term as a result of having children.
I have a question, because I was thinking like, I think Tula and I are kind of talking from a place of like, I know I want to be married. I know Tula's like, I feel like you're open to it. You're like, I could be married. But that's kind of a step that I need before I have kids. I'm not interested in being a single mom, but some people are. Some people want kids, like regardless of what happens. They want a marriage too, but they're like, first and foremost, I want to be a mother. So I feel like I've heard stories of people, looking into surrogacy and stuff like that alone.
And I know someone who was like, she was like, I don't know when my soulmate's gonna come. So I just know right now I want a baby. So she went and got herself a baby. And I was like, yes, I love that. And so the man may or may not come, but she has her child, and that's my baby.
Oh, that's cute. Where do you feel like with that, Tula? Because like, I mean, I know it's like yours is like financial too. You need some years of enjoyment and making sure you have the ability to not, lose yourself in it.
I think I'm big on the idea of not waiting. Like, I think a lot of times as women, we're taught like, wait till you buy your own house, till you get married, wait till and I don't think we're necessarily taught this in our house, but society will have you think, or wait before you go to that place you want to travel to go, for your honeymoon, make that a special thing. It's a lot of like waiting. And I think nowadays, especially as educated Black women, we're able to, provide for ourselves in a certain sense that we historically have not been able to do, that we're at a place where if you want a kid, go have a kid, like, and so I embrace that. I think if it gets to a point where I'm really like, hey, I'm 40 and I want a kid and he hasn't come around yet, then by all means, I could go ahead and do what it takes to have a kid, whether like, in vitro or, all the other options, adoption, whatever that is. I don't think at this point in my life that I would be willing to wait for a guy for that to happen, because I think if I wanted to be a mother, I wanted to have a kid, it would be sad for me to be like 50 and be like, I never did it.
Yeah. For me, it's like, and I was talking to Mom about this. Like I said, I had to get it through her mind. In her mind, I don't know if I'm gonna have kids, because for me, it was like growing up, like my whole life, it wasn't really a question as to whether or not I was gonna have kids. It's like, yeah, when I get married, I'm gonna have kids. And you know how you don't really know you have like this life plan for you until life starts not looking like what you thought it would. So I think I just thought that I would at least be married by like my mid 20s to like at least now my later 20s. I'm 28, and then like I would probably be having kids in my mid to late 20s. And now that I'm 28 and I'm like not like, I don't even have like an eligible baby daddy available. He's coming. I believe he's gonna be here. But like, who knows how long that will take? And then I just see more and more examples of people finding their boo later, getting married later. It might be 35, 40. It might be before I find the right guy. And so I realized like, oh, I think I was interested in that family unit. I'm really not interested in having kids alone. Like, I do wonder if I'll look back on it when I'm 50 or 70 and be like, I wish I had kids. But right now in this new phase, now that I'm 28 and things haven't happened the way I thought, now I'm like, I don't know if I want kids. And now even when I do find the right person, will I want them kids when it's time? And it's just it was interesting. I think last year is when I noticed it. That on top of like not being jealous of parents during the pandemic, like because they had so much to deal with. So I was like,
Yeah.
it's not that bad being single and not having kids.
Right.
So I just, it's really interesting for me to come to terms with that and realizing like I now say I'm open to children rather than I want children.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I'll ever seek being a mother on my own unless something else changes, another stage in life happens.
And I think like Naya, you're so, I don't say this to be like, what's the word?
Demeaning.
No, well, sure. But basically, I'm saying, so I think that you're still young enough, so young, that you have time to, like, if you, in the next couple of years, was like, you know what? I might want children my late 30s. I can go ahead and farm these good old eggs and freeze them. Like, like you're in a place where it's still, you're still young and you still have options. And if and you could change your mind if you want to. Like you said, you don't know if you're going to be like 50 or 60 or 70 and be like, I don't know, I wish I had kids. But right now you're still at that age, like I still can decide, and you can meet the guy tomorrow or you can meet the guy in 2 years and still be fine.
Tomorrow.
And you still be fine. Like, you know what I mean? So it's fine that I think it's absolutely beautiful that you're at a place where you understand that you're open to have kids and that it's not necessarily that thing that you might want now. I think that's beautiful. But I think you should also recognize that you are still really young, even though you might not have hit what you thought you would, those points that you thought you would hit.
Yeah.
Like term you used to open to having kids. Yes.
No, I'm open to it. We'll see what happens. Yeah. And I guess I do know I'm young. I think I talked about this with someone around you, Tula, and they like almost laughed when I said how old I was, but it's like I'm thinking long term now because it's just the reality that people, I'm watching a reality show Ready for Love or Ready to Love, these people are 40, 50, some are mid-30s. So it's like people are still out there looking for the one, and that could be my future. So
know what, one thing Momo did was like when Janet Jackson was pregnant, she called me. She was like, you see Janet Jackson have a baby at 50, so you don't have to rush. Oh. And then I think it was like the last time I actually saw Grandma when I was saying bye. She made the statement. She's like, I do want you to have kids because, like I'm so grateful that I had kids to take care, my kids to take care of me now. And so I do think like I've never thought about that of being like 80 plus years old and being grateful that I had kids because I do have, like especially if your kids like you, a good caretaker and somebody, family that's there to support you. So
that's
she actually, she changed my mind. Like she helped me. I think hearing her say that actually made me rethink how I think about kids.
Yeah, I get that. And it's something to consider, but it's hard because it's like, what if I'm 80 and I wish I had kids? But what if you're 80 and you wish you did? You know what I mean? Like
exactly. And I think I was stuck on having kids because it was so fun growing up. And so it just seemed like the natural next step because I used to want like a whole bunch of kids because it was just so fun. And when I watched the Kardashians, my other set of sisters, like I just loved the dynamic and everything. Don't do that. Anyway, so I think that's where it came from. But just like you said, like I might have the kid and be like, oh my gosh, like a lot of people are like, why did I wait? But I might be like, why didn't I just decide not to? Why did I just cut these bad boys out because this isn't worth it or something? I don't know. And there are like stories about that. So that's another thing that scares me where people don't feel attached to their kids or they have them. And they're like, I told my daughter, like maybe they're like teenagers, like if I could do it over, I probably wouldn't have them. But I'm like, but they're like cool with each other, but it's like a different dynamic. And I'm like, that's very real. Like, I don't know how often that happens, but
I more so know people like regretting who their child's father is versus regretting having kids. It's like I could have been fine not meeting him at all. And yeah, my baby is gorgeous, but dealing with this man.
Yeah.
I want to foster.
I think that's important.
I've always wanted to. I think, especially after seeing this episode, you guys don't watch 911. You know Hen.
Can't do it anymore.
Do you know Hen?
Yes,
Yeah.
you know Hen. Yes.
So they fostered, and then right at the last minute when they're about to adopt, the foster mother, the actual mother came back, and it was just this thing. And Nana was like, "See, that's why I don't want to foster," and it just kind of created this panic in her head. And I was like, "But if you kind of knew it was temporary, even if it was like for a year, I think in my own head, I could be not detached, but in a way detached enough to know like at any moment, like it could turn any way, but." I know it'll still be hard, but I just always want to do that because I do really like kids, but I'm like, I don't know how much I want to, how long I want to have them. So if it's like a temporary assignment.
All my stuff went away, guys. Hold on one second. Continue, actually.
Okay. Well, I will say, Scott, that sounds kind of bad, but it maybe it's like a good trial period, like how you feel. You're like, wait, I do want that, then you'll know that you do want to be a parent. I never used to want to like adopt or foster, but there was just this really compelling commercial about like adopting a teen. And I know a lot of people don't like that because they feel like they already have like solidified whatever, but that's the reason why, there needs to be more people that want to adopt teens. And I was like, I could see that if I'm like 35, 40, and I feel like I have, I do have an abundance and an overflow to give, and I have a nice, safe home, and I don't want to be selfish, but maybe I don't want to start at like zero. So maybe have like adopting 13 or 14-year-old or a couple of them and have them be your children and pouring into them, in that same way. So I feel like that's an option that people can look into. And it's like I was talking to mom about that too. I was like, maybe it's a good thing that I don't need to have kids, because then I could be available for someone else that needs a mother in a different situation.
I literally only want, I don't want to say only, but pretty much the reason why I think I'm stuck on a kid, maybe having one, because otherwise I think it can go out the window. I want to see myself in the kid.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, what is that like? Like that experience has to be like, it's kind of the same reason why I want to experience childbirth. I wish I could just be a surrogate, but you have to have your own first. But I just want to experience childbirth because it seems so magical. And wow, look at my body, that's cool. But
no, I don't want to experience childbirth. Like, there's no part of me that will feel like I missed out on life if I didn't have childbirth. It seems uncomfortable. It's literally a trauma to your body. I mean, like I've never. And then it was a gender studies class. I saw a video and I was like, what? So yeah, that was college before I knew what it looked like. And
have you guys seen those pumpkins? They're like birth. What is it called? Centimeter dilated pumpkins or whatever. So they have like the jack-o'-lanterns with their eyes, and then they have a little mouth, and then it gets bigger. But it has like this big old mouth.
Yeah. The baby has to come out.
Oh. And it's like not even like, to Naya's point, it's not even just like, it's trauma on your body for so many levels. Like all the systems are like, oh, we're putting together a baby. Like this is every part of your body is like I said, like it's real queening for me. Like that is the ultimate rites of passage to queendom. But I'm fine just being a regular queen or
a peasant on the sidelines watching.
Yeah.
Yes, queen.
Yeah, I'm cool on being like, you go ahead, ultimate queen mother. Yes. But it's never been that thing like I want to experience. I don't know, like it almost sounds like it always looked uncomfortable to me being pregnant. You know how everybody's like, oh, you're so cute. I'm like, you just look
so cute. The waddle. I guess in my mind also, I feel like this is a little, it's not off topic, but like just stay with me. You know how every creature has its like purpose, like its thing it knows how to do. Spider web, just put the little spider webs together. I used to watch outside the window spiders doing this. It's just so cool. Like I feel like we don't know what we're doing, but when you're doing the childbirth thing, you don't necessarily, it's not like you're doing it, but your body knows what to do. I think it's so cool. Anyway.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, let's study it. I don't need to experience it. I also feel like I always, because I get motion sick, I just imagine having one of those pregnancies where you're just dizzy the whole time and on bed rest, and like I just like, you. What if I'm pregnant during the summer? You just hot.
No,
I
that's
just
why you
don't want.
plan it. The
Okay.
first few months are going to be summer, and then
Okay.
throughout the cooler months, yeah. That's
I think it's funny. Naya would be the person that has like that person who's like, oh yeah, childbirth was easy for me. Like
I figured it out myself. I delivered my own
right?
baby.
I've seen this actual video of this woman. I think it was called Babies, that documentary that was out, and like this woman was cleaning or something, like she was just going about pregnant, and she felt her labor pain, she felt her water break, she just did a squat, pulled the baby out, did what she needed to do, and kept on about her day. Like I was like, wait a minute, ma'am.
Her first baby. How's she know what to do? Was she a nurse?
I don't know if it's her
Big
first
question.
baby or not. It was just called like some group in Africa, like it's a woman in Africa, but the way she just was like, boop, boop, baby, let me nurse it, let me clean it up. All right, let me go get the goats. I was like, sis,
No.
you deserve a rest, or I'll take a rest for you. Like that was traumatizing, but that just shows you like what a woman's body can do.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I am interested in the idea of having a little you running around. That is the part. So I understand that.
Because I'm so like awesome to myself. I know this might just be me, but I would love myself as a baby. Like everything is, even if I was a grumpy baby or like didn't like people or just like sarcastic, I would absolutely love it.
Ooh, I would love for you to get a little taste of your little demonic self as a baby.
I love it.
Ooh, have a baby.
Even the kids, my favorite students are usually ones that are, I wasn't necessarily a troublemaker, but the ones that are a little sassy, sarcastic, like I just love it. And those are my favorites.
But okay, have it in your home 24/7. Actually, yes, please have a child. I want to see this.
I love it. Perfect.
Oh man, I think this is like a really good conversation that we're able to have, primarily because I think about all the times where people ask the question, why don't you want to have kids? I get so, because I'm older than you all or whatever, people are like, you never want to have kids? Why don't you have kids? What's going on? I was like, that is the rudest question to me. Like, stop asking. Like, you know, mom is one thing, it's fine, but like just people stop asking that question. And so I'm like, hey, here we're giving you a glimpse into the thought process, but I really don't have to justify it for anyone, the reason I may or may not have kids. I think it's just so rude, because I know so many people who actually have infertility issues and things like that, or who lost have lost children through either miscarriages or early, like, and so that idea about a woman's identity being tied completely to having children just bothers me so much. And I know that society has planted that seed in people's heads, but still it's just like, be polite and like don't stay out of one woman's womb, pretty much is where I stand.
We just gonna be like 99 reasons why we don't have kids. There's a lot of thought process that goes into it, and you're right, Tula, there's so many other situations that people have. So yeah. So we let you know, don't ask, just refer back to this podcast if you ever have any questions about why people aren't having kids. But yeah, that was a good talk. I'm glad the guys weren't here.
Yeah, there's would have been some interesting perspectives.
All right, so let's wrap up this discussion for today. Thanks everyone for joining us. Maybe let us know in the comments or wherever you can hit us up, like, are you looking to have kids, or what other factors do you take into account? Or maybe give us some encouragement. Is motherhood, is childbirth as traumatizing as I think it is? Let us know, comment below. Thanks for joining us. If you want to get more of these podcasts, be sure to subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed the conversation, and we'll see you guys later.